So there's been a new study that was conducted by an individual or maybe a group of people at Harvard to decide to look into the indie film market. All right. They wanted to take a look at the indie film market and see if there's an actual audience for this thing. So study reveals untapped market of 40 million people who will pay for indie films on streaming. That's kind of a bombshell, especially for myself. So I've made probably like 5 or 6 short films. One was 45 minutes long. One was like 52 minutes long. And so in the past, I've been very involved in the indie film market. And by that meaning like self-funded. So more self-funded indie films, less like small, investment type of stuff. But it was mostly done out of my own pocket. But this very, very much fascinates me because whenever you start to hear that there's an audience of over 1 million people that are interested in paying for indie films, it really causes people to perk up because entertainment and streaming and paywall content for creators is so dominated by the studios that it causes indie filmmakers to really feel just stomped on. It causes them to really feel taken advantage of and to really feel hopeless. But this new study actually reveals something that's very fascinating. And I pulled up the PDF that's like the whole written study. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, obviously. But basically the key findings from this study was that the estimated current U.S. audience of the indie film market is around 36.7 million individuals in the U.S. But through the study, they basically found potential audience size of being 77 million. So there's a discrepancy. There is an untapped market of about 40 million people who would be willing to pay to see more indie films. So when I see this, what I all of a sudden go to is the idea that who's in charge of marketing? Like the indie film market has a severe marketing problem if there's 40 million people that are potentially willing to pay for indie film projects. What's crazy about the indie film market is that the majority of everything that comes out that the indie filmmaker can do is to submit to film festivals to try to get recognition. That's how they get it in front of eyeballs. Well, interestingly enough, we have the internet now, so actually that's becoming more and more obsolete, and it's a big scam, honestly. It's a huge scam, the film festival, because indie filmmakers have to pay to submit their film because the film festivals need to earn, their cut to show all of these films or to even just consider them. I submitted one film that I did to 4 different independent films. I spent a total of about $300 or $400 to submit it to festivals, and I made sure it followed all the requirements. And not one of those 4 festivals even considered it. They looked at it. Well, first they took the money, and then that somebody watched it and just said like, it's not going to be submitted into the festival. So basically, just to submit it, you have to drop hundreds of dollars, potentially thousands of dollars, depending on how prestigious the festival is. And then your film doesn't even get considered. It's such a big scam. And I'm not going to say that like my film was a cinematic masterpiece, but to not even be considered, like at the very least, you should have been given a reason for why it wasn't considered. And to be honest, the winners of these festivals are complete BS in a lot of ways. Like it's so arbitrary. Most of them are super woke, and so they only care about like social issues. Like those are always the winner. It's not just the Oscars. It's not just in Hollywood. It's in the indie film market as well. The indie film market like prioritizes these super woke, liberal, progressive agendas and messages in the independent filmmaking. And so it discourages anybody who has ambitions to just tell a really good story without, messaging or preaching to anybody, or without pushing, honestly, this very humanistic ideology culture onto the viewers. And you just want to watch something that's entertaining. So when I see this, I'm like, hey, this is actually really exciting because it presents an opportunity for indie filmmakers, a big one. And I mean, this is very important. If you are ever interested in indie filmmaking, or have ever made a film, or you're a part of a small group of people who make films, hear this. Festivals are a scam. They're a part of the Hollywood system because festivals feed signal to Hollywood who they need to pay attention to. And festivals ultimately makes you come across as begging for attention. And with marketing, there's always that risk. You always come across as potentially begging for attention. But what I'm saying is the indie film market entering the space that Hollywood has set up for it, which is festivals, is one of the worst things an indie film can do, because it presents itself as if it's important, and it presents itself as if you are going to get a lot of praise and recognition. And it may be fun when they start saying like, you won an award, and you could put little symbols all over your poster, but it really means nothing, because the number of people that go from festivals to working full-time as like a filmmaker, producer, director, cinematographer, any of that is like, it's almost just as bad as playing the lottery. Your chances are so incredibly small, even if you make a really good film, because their criteria is set up in such a way to only benefit DEI, honestly. And it's really messed up. And so what I'm saying is, like, there is a market. It says here, this study, a potential market of 70 million people who are willing to pay for films. So hear me out. If you are involved in films or indie filmmaking, or you enjoy it, listen to this. The number one way to tap into an audience of people that care about your indie film is to do YouTube, to do Rumble, X, social media accounts that builds on your personality, so people can learn to get to know you, so people can see your work for free. Yes, and when I say for free, it means no charge of you to submit it, but also you don't get paid in the end, right? However, filmmakers have to grow their skill and their influence. They have to build their personality. Let's take a Hollywood example. What are some of the most popular movies that have come out? Like when you have an entire system that is expecting and anticipating the next movie that comes out, what's one of the biggest ways, the biggest criterias for people's expectations of a film that's going to come out? And a big one is, who's going to make the film? Christopher Nolan. What is his next movie going to be? Everyone's sitting at the edge of their seat. That's because filmmakers in today's world are building a reputation, and it matters actually a lot more about who the filmmaker is, who the director, producer, writer is, than the actors. For the entire cinema history, it's always been who's on camera. It's becoming less and less important now. To having a star, to having a recognizable face, it can help your film. It definitely still helps. But is it one of the most important selling factors anymore? Not really. And so how do filmmakers who are writing storyboards and scripts and coming up with shot lists and going out and interacting with actors on performance and making sure the shot's in focus and lighting and telling their story visually, filmmakers in the indie market, how do they actually benefit themselves? It's by being resilient, by growing your personal influence in the space of cinematography and filmmaking, making as many connections online with other people who do similar work, cross promoting between the two of you and giving your stuff away for free, at least for a time, to the audience. And then eventually you can maybe set up a Patreon and put your films up to, purchase through your Patreon, like one-time purchase, or have a subscription model for your own films. But that's so incredibly important, because apparently there's a potentially 77 million people out there who are interested in indie films, and this is such an incredibly untapped market. So, and I've seen other people, like I've noticed online other indie filmmakers who started YouTube channels who are saying the exact same thing. So all I can say is, like, don't mess around with the system. Break free of the system 100%. Don't waste your time or your money. Because also, consider this. You pay a festival to enter your film. You cannot post, most of the time, the rules are you cannot post that film online or let anybody see it until the festival run is over. Even if you don't win. Like, you literally can't do what you want with your own film until the festival's over. So, like, for a period of time, they're telling you what to do with your own film. And that's garbage, especially if it came out of your own money, especially if you took money out of your own bank account and paid to submit it to their festival to ultimately go nowhere. It is such a scam, and it is such a horrible system where they just put actual creative people at the bottom and just walk all over their success. These people in Hollywood, these writers and executives, they will literally go to indie film festivals and they will watch movies and they will steal ideas. They'll steal your idea before they'll ever hire you to do a film. It is such an incredibly corrupt and scam system. Don't be a part of it. Build your own thing, build your own influence, and stay online. Focus on the people that are actually going to convert to viewers, to fans, to audience members, and to paying customers. And that's going to be in the online space. There's just no getting around it. There just is not any getting around it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of all this. Interested to hear your thoughts and your experiences.